Okay, going.
And we are live. Welcome, everyone, to Down the Rabbit Hole. So glad to have you all here. As you know, this is an open discussion. And if you want to be on with your camera and video, that's fine. If you want to just do audio, it's fine. Or if you just want to be in the background listening, that's cool. But there's also a chat session or section down at the bottom. So feel free to just pop in your questions if you want, or you can just spew them out, however you'd like to do it. So welcome, everybody. Hi, Jean. Hi, Linda. Thank you so much for joining us.
Morning.
So, normally we start off our conversations from the topic of our last live stream, which was what is the infinity matrix? And we kind of did that because we wanted to better define what the infinity matrix is, and compared to when Gary, it was our very first live stream, wasn't it, that we did that? So a little over a year ago, and we just wanted to kind of refine things down. Has anyone had a chance to watch that last live stream or was on it?
I did.
Yeah. You have any questions?
Questions
or comments?
Not direct. I probably did, but
oh my gosh, she has a notebook. I stepped into that one.
I'm constantly taking notes here.
Well, that's great.
Well, I ran across something. Talk about that for a second.
Sure.
This video came to on my Facebook feed, I think, and it was this woman, a PhD, she's writing a book called Practical Time Travel for Everyday Mystics. And it was really interesting because what she was talking about is they're experimenting with time travel to go back and heal old wounds or even physical issues. They're working on people that have cirrhosis.
I saw that very same video.
Pardon me?
I saw the same video.
Did you? Yes. Greg Braden put it out. That's how I saw it. Yeah. What do you think of that?
I thought it was very fascinating. I thought that it was something that is quite feasible. I'm really in awe of somebody who, is that prominent in her industry and is willing to step out of the norm of the industry and say, this is what I think. This is what I've been looking at. This is what I've been experimenting with. This is what I've experienced. And I was really in awe. I'm just like, this is very, very interesting. So, Linda, give us your take on that video. How did you interpret that?
I interpreted it, well, how do I put this? I ran across that years ago with someone who was teaching about your amygdala. Mm-hmm. I don't remember the name of the people that were behind it, but anyways, they talked about going back and in your childhood and healing emotional wounds so that as you get older, you can come back and change the story. That's what it was. Mm-hmm. Go back and change the story of events in your life.
Right.
Relive them in your mind, but change the story, change the outcome. And it gives you a healing of that issue.
Right.
So I thought that made sense, but I never really got a hold of it then. Mm-hmm. And now where I'm at, I feel like it's something I can really look into. If they're finding healing from actual physical, which is what the direction is she was talking about, actual physical problems, that could be huge. I mean, a lot of our physical problems can happen from our emotional state.
Correct.
They do, yeah, for sure.
For sure. Yeah.
So if you can go back, I don't know how far you can go with this. I suppose it's limitless, isn't it?
It absolutely is. So in her case, she was talking about when she was having trauma when she was very, very young.
Right.
And this is how it kind of played out, and correct me if I'm wrong. But she had this trauma when she was young, and she remembers when she was young, laying in bed and having a discussion with a woman sitting next to her,
Right.
next to her bed. And she was always fascinated by this because that woman only existed relatively in her mind. So the woman wasn't actually there in her bed. And then as she became older and she was just really taken by this, she realized that her in her 40s was actually the woman sitting next to her bed when she was 10 or 8 or whatever that whatever age was. And so she was traveling back and soothing herself during times of trauma. And this stuck with her. It just stayed with her. And that's why she ended up getting into the science that she was in. I think she became a neuroscientist, I believe. Was it neuroscience?
Yes,
yeah,
I think
it was.
So. Yeah.
And she got her PhD, but it was always with the intention of trying to understand, comprehend, put together exactly what it was that was happening, because she always knew that the woman that was by her bed was in her mind, but she was fascinated by the fact that that person was there and soothing her. And she knew that person that was having the adult that was having the conversation with her was the reason that she got through the trauma that she did. It was just like having her own, psychologist, whenever she needed it. And it was fascinating. She's like, so then as I became old, I got older, I realized that I was the person that went back. So I went back in time and healed. I'm not sure if she actually healed the traumas so much as perhaps caused her to avoid it. I would have to go back and re-listen to it again, but that's still the premise of the papers that she's written and such, in the book that she's putting together too, is that, if I could do this, then I could do this, and then I could do this. And it was absolutely fascinating. It really was.
Who's the lady again? Because I didn't watch the video you're talking about, but I have come across information like that.
Her name is Julia Mossbridge. Yeah, Mossbridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to look more into that. But I mean, it makes sense too, because based on what we teach and the concept of the past doesn't really exist other than what you create in the moment to justify what's happening in the moment. Right. So when I was doing hypnotherapy, there was a study that I dove into quite a bit, and I should probably look back into there if they've taken it anywhere, but I'm trying to think of what it was called. It was talking about, there was a bunch of people that were doing work on DNA activating different strands of your DNA. And one of the concepts they had was that we have within us what they called a central cell. And that central cell stores your entire history of everything. And it holds together the whole template of you, if you will. And the work was about how do we change the imprint of that central cell to create a ripple effect outwards. And a really interesting concept came out of it when I was doing it, and that when you have and this is when because I applied some of it with my clientele, and as you apply the things you learn, you see what holds water and what doesn't, right? And one of the things that that came from some of that practice was that when you think about something like something tangible, like a scar, like a physical scar that you have, right? So let's say, I've got, I can barely see it now to think about it, but I have, oh, here it is. So on this knuckle right here, I've got a little scar there that happened when I was probably, I'm gonna say 11 years old or so. I was washing dishes one day, and one of the glasses in the soapy water had a crack in it. But I didn't know that, so I'm in there doing this, and all of a sudden, a chunk of my skin goes
We
hanging
have a
off.
matching scar.
Oh, sweet, really?
I did the
Maybe
same
it was the
thing.
same damn glass.
I have a scar right here. Hang on a
no.
second. Let me get my. Well, I mean, if we're showing scars.
And while this is not a plea for sympathy, it's more for example.
I'm going to hear about it after this video.
The thing that came out from that was wondering, well, why is it? And this was in a conversation I think I had with a client, or maybe it was one of my other hypnotherapists, I don't remember, but why is it that some scars stick around for so long? And why is it that some come and then before you know it, you look and then, hey, I thought I had that scar. I mean, we all have those experiences, right? And it came about in these discussions that, well, your central cell will hold on to the imprint of that scar for as long as you hold on to that memory or the emotional impact of that memory.
That's interesting.
Oh.
Okay.
When you no longer have an emotional impact to that memory, as far as a recollection of it, or as far as an emotional charge, and I still remember that experience being, I was like, it was because, all of a sudden the water in the sink is filling up with red. I'm like, what? And I remember the feelings of like, oh, this 11-year-old go, what the hell? And then seeing my hand coming out of the water with just blood dripping down. So there's still emotional charge there that holds on to that memory. So that central cell then, in order for me to still have that memory, has to give me a physical representation of it as a scar. Otherwise, how would I know it had happened? What reference place would I have for that, with that recollection and clarity of thought? Because I could still see the kitchen, that a house I lived in, who was in the room. I still see all those things when I think about it. And then there's other scars that I know that I've had, I remember I could have swore that I had this scar in this spot over here, and I look and it's not there, and I remember the experience and some of the story around it, but I don't really feel an emotional charge per se, but I do remember recollections of it, and I wonder where that scar goes, and I wonder, well, what's the difference between the two? And so the central cell concept is that the healing that needed to happen on an energetic spiritual level for that particular scar that disappeared happened. And the memory of it is more of a lesson that I need to continue to remind myself of or remember, so that I don't fall into that particular scenario again to get that type of experience. For whatever reason, it's still the memory or the idea of it. And truth be told, as time goes by, even the memory fades, and I don't even remember what scar or what. I mean, it doesn't happen.
Is part of the premise of this, Gary, that that's why scars fade over time?
Yeah, I mean, again,
part of it.
It's a variety of different things that go into it in that, because again, even that, so that the star concept or constellation type stuff that happens in that way. The idea there is that as a collective whole, that memory of that star goes away. So therefore we have no recollection or reference or collective reference to it.
Or the charge behind the event.
Yeah.
Is that where they're coming from?
On a galactic level. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes sense with, what the video you're talking about, that, yeah, if we travel back in the past to a past self and create a change there, it's no different than projecting a future memory that hasn't yet happened and walking into it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So you're saying if to travel back to something, what you just think about it, you spend time.
Well, the premise of what she was particularly talking about in her video was that it's not the TV version of time travel.
Right, I
And
understand.
okay, so
Yeah.
she was projecting herself back. She was projecting her consciousness back in
Into
order.
the memory.
Yeah, in
Excuse me?
hypnosis we call it age regression, right? And
Right.
you just because in hypnosis you can do time travel, if you will,
Mhm.
by sending your consciousness back to a moment in time, recreate, remember, recollect the concept, the idea, the image, the experience, and go through shifts and changes, and then you come back here and then you no longer have that trauma anymore, or no longer have
Right.
that issue, or healing starts to happen. I mean, we've been doing it with hypnosis for years.
Mhm. Well, that's the premise of timeline therapy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So now I can recall times in my past where something has happened, and I can honestly say that there was a moment before that happened where something told me, don't do that, or you should do this, and I at the time I didn't listen or whatever. And after as I've gotten older and understood things more and more and learned, I'm like, I probably went back and told myself, tried to warn myself, or give myself advice. Hey, you probably should do this instead, or don't go that direction because this is what happened and such. And who knows how many times I listened, but I do remember the times I didn't. And that's the duality there. It's just like, well, did this happen more than I thought? But I did listen. I thought, oh, that's actually, I probably should stop and not go forward with this particular, whatever the case may be. So that's the real big question. Because she's thinking in her interview, and it was a short interview, it was what
Right.
15 minutes long, maybe. She's talking about a traumatic event. But my question is, how many events did she go back and prevent from happening so they were not a traumatic event, so then they were just life as usual, and then they didn't leave that emotional scar, so she doesn't really remember them, because it's like, well, it was just I didn't cross the street that day, or I paused before I crossed the street, because I would have gotten maimed by that car that didn't see me. Whatever the case may be.
I wonder about that. I've had incidences that just stand out in my mind. One time I was stopping at a red light, and this voice just said, "Look in your rearview mirror." And I looked up, and this car was coming right at me. So I just pulled off the road.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that, because that was like, oh, I would have been creamed.
Well, was it Gary? A few months ago, I pulled over and I sent Gary a message. And like, I was at an intersection and I was just pulling out. I was at a stoplight and I was in a turn green. I was just moving forward to make a left-hand turn, and someone, whatever, just went, "Hey!" And I turned to look, and just as I turned to look, there was a car coming like 70 miles an hour and blew the red light. And I just pulled over, and I'm literally sending a message to Gary. I'm like, you would not believe this is, but someone.
So who is the voice?
Who
don't know.
Voice? There was nobody there.
Yeah. Who talks to you? I've had this happen numerous times. Is
right.
it yourself?
So the question is, did I go back, and was that me that yelled, my higher mind that yelled? Was it something else that did that to warn me that something's going to happen? Because it had to make me look to the left.
Right.
I had to look left, because if I had looked right, I wouldn't have seen the car anyhow. So I looked left, and then I saw that car, and I just slammed them. I mean, I missed that car, or that car missed me, however you want to look at it, by 6 seconds. It was just that fast. And but in hindsight, I'm kind of like, well, you know, who, what, where was it that actually warned me? We don't know. At this moment in time, we don't know.
I think that incident that happened to me impacted the other car equally as dramatic, because as he was slamming on the brakes, you could see they were fighting in the car.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't looking. He was looking at his wife, and they were, or whoever, the woman, I assumed it was his wife. They were fighting, and when he looked forward, he was already at the light and hit that brake. If I would have been there,
you saw all that in your rearview mirror?
No, I looked in my rearview mirror to see him coming, and I pulled right over, and then I looked back and saw what was going on as he was slamming on his brakes.
Oh, okay.
So if I would have been at the light, I had more time than that, I think, because I pulled over and then saw him slamming his brakes and sliding into the light.
Right. So if we look at the puzzle of synchronicity and such, did you look in your rear view mirror? Were you signaled to look in your rear view mirror to help yourself or to help them?
That's the
or
question.
is it a both and? You know,
well, I assumed it helped both of us, because
Sure.
it would have been just as traumatic on their end.
Right.
Maybe not physically as much on my
Right.
end, but it would have been life-changing.
Okay,
all
but
the way
here's
around.
so here's the other question then. Okay, was it you that caused you to look in the mirror, or was it him that caused him to look in the mirror?
Oh, wow, yeah. I never thought of that one.
I mean, it's a web.
I just thought I was being protected. I took it for, okay, I got a little protection.
And that,
going
you know,
on.
that's fine. It just, like I said, it's just questions. It's just
Yeah.
lots and lots of questions. So then we can take this even further, and then we can go back to, or even present time now, of people who the doctors think are you know, have some sort of psychosis because they're talking to people. It's like, well, yeah, but who are they talking to? You know,
Yeah.
are they talking to themselves, or are they actually having a conversation with somebody that has come back to, you know, help them through a trauma?
So do you think when we see people, because when I was little, I used to see people all the time. When you see them, do you think that's probably what it is?
When you see people, what?
I used to see people when I was a kid. I used to see people in the room.
Oh, okay. When you see, oh, okay.
Yeah, my parents used to say, "Shut up, that's not there."
People who are physically not there.
Physically not there, but I
Others,
would
yeah.
see them. Yeah, that went away as I got older. I don't do that anymore. But
Yeah, because you're
Trained out of it.
Yeah.
exactly right. You've been
Yeah.
conditioned to think that it's not right or okay, right?
Yeah.
But doesn't mean it doesn't still happen, for sure. You know, I think that there is an experience that people have at different levels and different ages for different reasons, where we tap into two radio stations two radio stations at the same time. Right? So you're tuning into a vibrational frequency where that person does actually exist, and it crosses over into your reality, and you become aware of that crossover for that time period.
Yeah.
Right? And because remember, in the infinity matrix, there's infinite timelines, there's infinite realities, there's infinite dimensions, there's infinite everything. And to think that we are the only solo experience and solo timeline, based on all the stuff we've been finding out in science and just even energetically and spiritually that we hear from teachings, to think that we're the only timeline and the only experience that can have these things going on is absurd.
Well, I recently, well, this was about a year or so ago, actually physically bumped into someone that wasn't there.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Because I backed up from my kitchen sink. I backed up and I said, "Oh, excuse me. I thought somebody in my household was there," and there was no one there, but it was a physical contact.
Wow.
Wow.
And that one really surprised me. I went, "Wow,
Wow.
I've never had that happen before."
You know, so the thing to think about, Linda, is, and anybody else is listening, if that's happening, because I mean, you'd be surprised that it happens much more than you think. So if you're having those experiences, you can actually engage in dialogue with those other beings, energies, entities, whatever you want to call them,
Okay.
and say, hey, are you here for a purpose or a reason, or do you need something from me, and kind of start that dialogue, because it's unlikely that something that serious, or serious is not the right word, that memorable, right?
Yeah.
It's unlikely that something that memorable happened without a reason.
Yeah.
I mean, for that matter, I believe we need to, look at, the stories of ghosts and spirits and all of that. It's just like, it's not, we again, going off of what you just said, we've been so conditioned over the course of our lives and by the people around us, is that, this is how it is. This is what a ghost is. It's evil and it's here to steal your, whatever and such. And that's the majority of the narrative that's out there. But
that's, that's kind of the history of mankind, is if they don't know something, it's all of a sudden bad. If they don't know about it, it's bad, it's evil, it's negative, because it's unknown. But there's a crap.
It goes back to that us
unknown
versus them as well. That's just a traditional narrative across. It's like, that's, and then destroy what we don't understand. But is that what it is? Is that really more of what you were just saying? Because who use that, your example, Linda, as is that, well, would another person from a different type of, a different background, a different history have said, there's a ghost in my kitchen? And
I kind of laughed about it. I mean, I didn't laugh. Yeah. I just said, wow,
exactly.
That was me.
That's you. That's your training. That's the knowledge that you have. But a person from a whole different type of background
would have been scared.
And such would have been scared. Called the Ghostbusters, and oh, this is happening. I have evil spirits, and I remember seeing Poltergeist when I was a kid, and this is what's going on. And oh my God, it's in the TV, and and just that imagination just takes off and such. Where you're kind of going, well, this is really cool.
Yeah. Can this happen again? Like, that's what I thought. I hope this happens again.
Next time, invite them for dinner.
I know. Hang around a while.
Another plate?
But Garry has a really, really good point. It's just like, all right, I sense that you're here. Why are you here?
Yeah.
How can I help you, or how can you help me?
And engage in that, and you may not get an answer right away, because again, sometimes they may on their end, you don't know what's happening on their end, right? Maybe on their end, you're walking into their reality and they're going, what the hell, right?
Yeah. What's she doing?
Exactly.
Wow.
Really. Yeah, so that's,
I do remember now about Thursday, because I had so much on my mind, I couldn't remember what we talked about on Thursday, but now I remember it was the meditation, the butterfly meditation.
Mm-hmm.
It was wonderful. Okay. And actually kind of funny I'd called it a little synchronicity. Yesterday I was going to the store, and that elusive butterfly of love song came on. I don't know if you remember that song. And it made me think of the meditation, That was a great meditation.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm actually thinking about doing one for the last episode too, and another, like the next journey of that butterfly before the end of the year. So we'll see, maybe in the last episode of the year. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Jean, what's going on in your world there and your reality? And
yeah, I haven't finished listening to the episode because I was so busy. But I did hear the part about when I think Ross or Garry, I can't remember each one of you, who say that the infinity is two realities, but then you say there's 5. So I want you to explain what you mean by 5 realities. Yeah.
Well, the idea is that we think of the infinity, or the flow of energy, is coming from from the right and from the left. Mm-hmm. And the premise is that no, it's coming from everywhere, but we just visually understand it, we just see this 2-dimensional representation of the infinity symbol, of the energy flowing in, because we are at that cross in the infinity. If you're using the symbol as an example, that's the choice convergence point where everything crosses in the center and such. So that's coming from all different angles. The energy is coming from this way, it's coming from this way, it's coming from all these different directions, not just to think, well, it's coming from this side or it's coming from this side. That's just a representation. It's a two-dimensional, it's on a piece of paper or on your screen, whatever, just a representational image of that flow of energy when it's actually coming from everywhere. It's like if you think of, again, going back to the example I use of a cell phone. Okay, your cell phone signal doesn't just come this way, to your phone. It doesn't come from this direction. It comes from everywhere to connect to a cell phone or a radio, car radio, whatever the case may be. That energy is everywhere and such. And then you just have your antenna, which with the infinity matrix, we are the antenna and such, is just grabbing that signal. And then it's transmitted, it's being converted into whatever the message is, whether it be on your phone or a radio or your brain. So that's the premise there is to understand that it's everywhere around you. And but unlike your cell phone signal, so this is the antenna for your cell phone. When you don't get reception, that's because the signal went over. It couldn't catch. You're in a valley or something like that, and the signal just can't connect to that your antenna. You're always transmitting. You're always connecting and grabbing that energy from the universe. It's always coming to you. You're never out of alignment with that signal. That's the difference.
Yeah, but today I think you explained, both of you explained the infinity matrix clearer. I can understand it much more.
That was the whole idea behind it. That's exactly.
And after going through in the beginning, with the first few episodes, I didn't quite fully understand what it is. I was trying to understand, but now it's getting very clear, and to realize that it's everywhere. Infinity, it's wherever. So it is so much clearer now. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So
good. That's exactly what our intention was for this episode, was to refine the information so that everybody has a better understanding. As a matter of fact, that same night or afternoon, my niece came over, and again, synchronicity. She, we haven't seen each other in a long time, and she's going to come over and watch my dogs while my wife and I are away. And we were just kind of talking, and she just started talking about the universe and this and this. And I just kind of went right into, everything that we do. And she's like, I did not know this about you. I'm like, wow. And then my wife just, steps in, and she's like, wow, it's this, and this, and this. And so I sent her the video that we did of the live stream. And I said, listen, here you go. I says, this is going to give you a really good overall representation of what we do. I says, and then obviously I'm, going to be there, to kind of, answer any questions and kind of give her own personal support. And, she's somebody who has been through a lot, and she really is starting to understand. She goes, oh, I see. And again, it was a situation where the current belief that she had, which is very strong, but it was always something out there. She was putting, everything was out there rather than in here. So I'm looking for this guidance. I'm looking, somebody's got this, and I'm, and this, and she was just kept looking out there. And I'm like, no, it's all here. It's here and here. Don't look out there. It's just here. Just, and just gave her kind of a calmness. And she's like, I see, because she gave me so many examples where synchronicity has worked in her life, especially lately. I'm like, well, that wasn't out there. That was here. You asked for it and it came. You radiated that intention out to there, and it was responded to. You mean, I didn't write it down on a mail and mail it to somebody, the person up there in the clouds, and they just like, oh yeah, I think I'll do this for her. It's like, no, it's just like you sent it out. And it was interesting because the example that she gave, she goes, there was a point where I said, I need a new computer, but I don't have the money to get a new computer. And within a week, I don't remember the exact situation, but somebody said she was at a friend's house and they had this really nice computer sitting on their desk. She goes, oh, that's really nice. She goes, you want it? I don't use it. She didn't say, to this friend, I need a new computer. She just said, wow, that's really, really nice. And her friend just said, well, I don't use it. Do you want it? And then she was in another program for school. And like a month later, the program said, you qualify for a new computer. So they sent her a new computer. And then it was her birthday 3 months later, and her sister bought her a new computer.
So she got three.
She's like, she goes, how do I turn this off? I'm like, you don't want to turn it off. I said, you want to figure out, you want to use this as a tool. You understand that this is a tool. Understand what you're doing. Go back and understand what you're doing and how you're doing it, and do it again, and get a bigger computer. Or a car, or this, or a job, or a relationship. This was her thing. She goes, I really want a relationship. I'm like, okay, great. Well, what's a relationship? There was the question. Well, what's your definition of a relationship? She, well, I'm not really sure. I'm like, well, have you had bad relationships? She goes, yeah. And I said, well, okay. So have you had a lot of bad relationships? Yeah, well, they just haven't worked out very well. I'm like, okay, so do you want more of those? She's like, no. I'm like, okay, so what do you want? Because when you're just saying, I want a relationship, okay, well, you're getting relationships. So you're getting relationships, right? She goes, yeah. You're just not getting the relationships that that are satisfying, and that, you feel loved and such like that. What is a relationship to you? You know what a computer is to you. It's the same premise. What is a relationship to you? And, then you just see the light went off. Oh, it's just like, people who send out, I want more money. Okay, well, here's $1, here's $1. That's what you asked for. You asked for more money. There's $1. Well, no, I want more than this. Okay, here's $2. But not necessarily looking for the physical aspect of it. Is more going back to, as I explained to her, I says, what does that ideal relationship feel like to you?
Is there such a thing, Ross? You hear, you read as well that, talking about, since you talk about relationship, is there such like what you call soulmates?
I believe that that we are all energetic beings, and there are other individuals who have a closer resonance of energy to us. So we could classify those as maybe a soulmate.
It could be guys, it could be girls, it could be whatever, it could be friendship as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I see it that way. I see it more as the fact that we're here on this call together.
Mm-hmm.
We're so, it's we all collectively at some level thought that this moment in time was a good time to physically see one another through this digital medium.
Yeah, I would, if I went off of that definition of what you just said, Gene, I would say that my wife is my soulmate.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we met, we just knew it. If you want to say it, love at first sight. It was just like, but it wasn't a sight. It wasn't oh my gosh, I'm just infatuated with, this beautiful woman. It was everything. And we just like this from the very beginning. But I have, I have very close friends that are the same way. Gary and I are the same way. I mean, we just, when we first met, we just resonated with each other. And that's probably the best word to use. There's just people you just resonate with, you just vibrate with them. You have your friends that you haven't seen in a while, but you can pick up right where you left off when you see them 5 years later, 10 years later. On the
I
other
think
side
I
of that,
manifested you guys.
there you go. All right, I'll take that.
Okay.
But on the other
Maybe
side
we
of that,
manifested you. Huh.
Can't do that. But on the other side of that coin, remember we used the idea, the example of the coin. We use the example of the coin, and we're right there. You can have that. I have, at least. You've met that person where you're just like, I just get a funny feeling about that person. It's the same. It's a resonance. It's a resonance, but it's just not one that's in sync with you. It's the same thing. It's just that energy. It's just like, I remember, oh gosh. Do you know a woman by the name of Barbara DeAngelis?
I know the name.
Okay, so she, very, very spiritual person. And I met her a long time ago, and beautiful woman. Beautiful. I mean, just an inner soul is just amazing. But when I first met her, I just was like, it was like I'm talking to her and I can't really see her. She was fuzzy to me. She was just like, and I literally had to walk away from the conversation. And then she kind of came to me like 30 minutes later. She was, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, I said, "I don't know what it was, but when I was talking to you, I couldn't see you. I can see you now, but I couldn't see you. It was so weird." And I was really tired. And I'm just like, that's because our energies at the time, at that moment, were not aligned. And she spent probably an hour talking to me, explaining a lot of this to me. And I'm just like, wow. And as she was talking, as she was explaining to me, her image in my mind sharpened. It's kind of like she went from regular TV to HD TV. I mean, it was just like, and I could hear her better, and my energy was better. I'm just like, this is crazy. And this is quite some time ago. This is 15, 20 years ago. And I'm like, this is just crazy. I've never experienced it. I've read about it, I've heard about it, but I've never actually experienced it and such. And it was kind of like you had these two energies that were just off. And then what she did is, I'm going to say that she brought my energy in line with hers, and then it meshed. And I'm just like, this is phenomenal. And that's the best example, the best way that I can explain that energy resonance.
Yeah, and a really good, you should probably pick it up. I think there might be some audio or video as well by now, but years ago, I read a book called Sacred Contracts by Carolyn Myss.
Oh, I love that book.
And if you check that book out, I think it'll kind of give you more structure around the idea of what you're talking about, Jean. And it's Carolyn, Carolin.
Yeah, MYSS.
Yeah, MYSS, and Sacred Contracts. Great book, really, really great book to check out.
What is it called? The Secret Contract.
Sacred.
The sacred.
SACRED contracts.
Oh.
Yeah, really good book to get into. And that would also fall in alignment with the beings, entities, or energies that you're connecting with too, Linda. There's sacred contracts that are happening for them to just enter into your awareness, and for you to be aware of them when they're there. Because again, my belief is that they're everywhere all the time. Right?
Do you think it's timelines intertwining? Is that
well, that's, you're crossing over, right? You're crossing over timeline realities. But again, I think with the infiniteness of what's out there, that the memorability of it is the thing that stands out for me, that says that they're the fact that it comes out with such an imprint on your conscious awareness it means that it's happening for a reason. Either you're trying to get a message across, or they're trying to get a message to you so strong that it actually manifests as a reality that you experience.
So that would be similar to when someone says they're speaking to the other side for people to get them in
for sure.
contact with them.
Yeah.
You know, I was at a conference one time with this John Holland. He's a medium, but I was at a conference in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
This place, it was pretty phenomenal. It was, you know, it was all people of that ilk, you know.
Yeah.
But we went into this conference room, and I'm sitting there, and it's about 4 rows up, and I see this colored cone coming out of the top of someone's head. I'm going, what in the world is
Wow.
that? And it was like looked like a little colored tornado just coming out of the top of their head, going right into their crown chakra is what I'm assuming it was.
Goodness.
And he happened to mention, because apparently other people saw it as well. And he said, when a person when someone's contacting that person, it opens that up. But I just found that incredibly interesting. I've never seen anything like that before, but I think it was the combined energy of everyone in the room.
Have you seen it again since then?
No,
Anyone?
I sure would like to.
Mhm.
But I always assumed that maybe, you know, it was because there was so much energy in there of you know, people that all
high vibrations
of a similar belief, that it really raised the bar of energy in the room.
Very, very much. That's fascinating.
That's super cool. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Any other questions, ladies?
I have to read, I have to hear everything first before I can ask more questions.
Sure.
Well, it doesn't have
Yeah,
to
but-
be just, it doesn't have to be about just about what, you know, what we did on Thursday. It could be for anything that we've discussed in the past.
I mean, is there such a thing like, you know, like, I mean, since we're talking about the soulmates and all that, could it be also like sometimes you look for somebody or a star for somebody, and then it comes to
Yeah.
to
We're actually gonna tap into some of that when we do the Sync Portals Master Lab, because that's what we call an intentional synchronicity, where you put some intention out for something or someone, and then allow synchronicity happen for it to actually show up or be there. And so you're projecting out into your future self and their future self to meet at this particular point in time to have this experience, right? Because of all the possible timelines, of all the possible locations, of all the possible everything, right? If you put that intention out and then it happens, then it's a synchronicity for a reason.
So, you know, the saying is that they say that people meet for a reason, and they come together for a reason, and, you know, out in the blue, you don't know the stranger, you don't know anything, but you meet, and then, you know, there is a vibration, you know, that happens.
Sure.
So all these things is all true, right? I mean,
well, we believe so. I mean,
resonate with, as you say, you just resonate with the person.
Yeah. Here's the thing though, Gene, it's true if you believe it's true. I mean, if you don't believe it's true, then you're going to find reasons to confirm that it's not. You know, but I believe it's more useful to think of things that way. True or not is a judgment, right? I think it's useful to think of things that way, and to realize it doesn't mean that everybody you meet is a complete life transforming reason. It's just, it could be, hey, you know.
No, some people, no, the people.
Yeah, some people, it's just to realize that, hey, yeah, that's a reminder of people I don't want to be around.
Exactly. Right. You know, but there's still a lesson there. There's a lesson of some sort. It's like, so I need to kind of stay away from that, or learn from this in one way or another. But I've had, you know, people, you know, come into my life for just a split second, and I'm like, and they'll just give me a piece of information. I'm like, well, how did that person know that I was researching this? You know, and you're just like, oh, you know, that's the way it was at first, but now it's just like, oh, cool, great, thanks. you know,
And it's the
right.
same with friends, right? You know, some come and they go, some stay for a little bit. They serve for that time, that energy for both of you, right? And then something happens where they shift the frequency. The metaphor I use is you get on a train of reality and you play with the people on that train. And sometimes the train stops, some get off, go to another train, some stay and and switch. That's kind of the way that it is, right?
Right. And there's also that other aspect of that is, you know, maybe you are the one coming into their life for just a moment to help them get through a particular thing. So most of us, we think it's, oh, they're here for me. So, well, maybe I'm there for them.
Yeah.
You know, helping that one person, giving that one person a piece of advice or a helping hand or whatever the case.
Which in turn does help you to resonate and vibrate more the truth of who you are. So it's not a this or, it's a this and, right?
Right.
So in that thought, if you're trying to say change how your life is going, what happens with the people that maybe you're directly with?
Well, a couple things can happen. There's no certainties, but there's a couple things that can happen. One is that they realize they're no longer in vibration with you, so they find their way out of the relationship, and you don't connect, you don't relate, you just end up being on a different path. Another a possibility is that, you know, that they see the example that you're doing as you evolve more the truth of who you are, and they realize that, hey, they need to tap into their own truth too, and that either brings them in alignment with your path or they find their own. You know, so there's a lot of variations in how that can transfer. You know, and so sometimes it's you're going to find that people will you know, see that or think that you're, you know, you've changed, what happened to you, and you know, that kind of stuff. And sometimes it's them that changed and shifted to a different frequency. And so there's all these different possibilities that could happen there. At the end of the day, we consciously only have ability to be in control of us. Right. And connect with our source and our core and bring more of that truth. And that's where, you know, in the metaphor of the initiate, you know, as the infinity matrix initiate, it's about being true to you, not true to everybody else. Because in being true to you, you sprout a frequency or a reality that attracts those like people to you, or the needed people and experiences to you, so you can move more towards that truth and in alignment with that.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
I think this would be
true. Oh, go ahead.
This would be tough for couples, you know, if one party is moving on and the other party after, you know, is not.
Yeah.
So that will be you know, off alignment.
Yeah, well, you know, and my wife and I are a great example. I mean, you know, we met when we were 17, you know, so fairly young. And, you know, the initial stages of the novelty of the newness of a relationship and the honeymoon, which you call the honeymoon cycle, was great. You know, we connected, we had, you know, but then there was a point in time where, you know, I was doing like workshop after workshop, seminars. I was doing all kinds of personal growth stuff to a different level than what I had when I met her. And she couldn't relate. She couldn't, you know, we didn't speak the same language, right? And it showed up as our relationship where we were, you know, at each other all the time. We didn't hang around the same people. We didn't have the same kind of conversations. And so we ended up separating for a bit. So for like 8 months we were apart. We still talk because we have a deep connection, right? And you know, like much like Ross, like from the moment I saw her, I knew that she was going to be, like the instant I saw her, I knew that we were going to be together in some way, shape, or form. And
it doesn't mean that he thought that he and I were going to be together. We're not. Clarification here. Just, you know, but we are, but we're not. So
So my wife
Okay.
Mo and I,
Yeah, I
yeah,
understand.
and so so there was there was this 8-month window where we were still in conversation and still speaking and still connecting with one another in some ways, but not as a couple. We just were doing our own things. And after 8 months, we started to realize that, that there was still something there that, hey, Suzette, that was connecting us very strongly. So then we end up getting back together again. Right. And then she started to come to some of the stuff and do some things, and she started to see some of the experiences that I was having that was valuable to her, and she started to participate and experience them and have her own growth. I believe that was around the time, I think we were also doing martial arts at the time. We started doing martial arts together at that time, and created start to connect up again. And that was kind of the part of the glue that kind of brought us back into the relationship thing. And then for about 4 or so years, things were great. And then again, another shift happened. And that I was in a different place, she's in a different place, and so I end up moving, and we end up saying, hey, you know what, we're just going to go our different ways for a bit. I end up moving across the country, 3,000 miles across the country, like to absolute end of the country, and staying there. And for a year and a half, we were on phone talking and still connected because we had a strong friendship and we had to spend a lot of time together, right? And for a year and a half, we were apart. We did our own thing. She did her own thing, and then again, circumstances occurred, synchronicities happened, and we ended up back together again. And we're 35 years now together, right? So it's the frequency of who we were needed to shift for each other in whatever way, so that we could have our own growth experience to come back together stronger.
It's a great example.
Right?
It's good that
and
many come back stronger, but
Yeah.
I've read somewhere that many actually fall apart, and even in friendship also fall apart because they don't understand what are you talking about, and they just want to talk about things that doesn't matter. And here you are talking about things that matters to you.
Yeah. Well, the
And
thing with Mo and I is our friendship bond.
In terms of friends also drop, and also between spouses and boyfriends and girlfriends, it also fall apart. Yeah, I mean that's what I read.
With Mo and our friendship bond was so strong that it had that constant thread that was always there, even when we were seeing other people, even when we always came back to each other. It was for whatever reason. So if you want to call that a soul partner, then you can call it a soul partner. It's there clearly is reasons why we've been together as long as we have, through all the crap that we've been through individually as well as collectively, because we've been through the ringer. Right? on all kinds of different levels, and yet we stick together. So there's all these variables that we don't know about. And I think if you just stay true to who you are, then whatever needs to unfold will unfold.
Yeah, beautifully said. I agree with you, Garry.
Yeah. And you can label it as good, bad, or indifferent, but that's up to you, not up to anybody else. And that's the power with the infinite matrix that I think we really want to drive home, is that one of the phrases that I from one of our teachers, that I come back to on a regular basis, a regular basis, is that circumstances don't matter. They're going to happen. Circumstances are going to happen. What matters is your state of being. So be more in tune with the state of being that you want to resonate as.
And that goes along with stuff you guys were saying a few of your Thursdays ago. I've been trying to catch up, so I'm on like number 11.
Oh, nice.
Oh, there you go.
About if you have an issue or a problem, you put it out there, talk to yourself about it, and then find good parts of it every night, journal. And that's
Yeah.
what I started doing. It really brings a sense of calmness to you. And then you notice things more. You know, we just
Totally.
get so busy and stressed out, and we don't pay attention to little signals that are there, little synchronicity.
And we hold things in.
Yeah.
Right.
And in a day and age when, you know, society is becoming sicker and sicker, that holding that all those emotions in and all these events inside, you know, it knocks down your immune system, brings down your energy level, takes you out of resonance. You know, I mean,
Well, what brought me to you, how what attracted the affinity matrix to me on Facebook was I have been under so much stress because of the way the world is right now. And I was walking around feeling angry all the time and upset. I said, I can't live this way. And I've started looking for ways to calm myself down. And it's just been a succession of things that have come across my path. Yeah. And I'm just in a much different place now than I was, say.
Well, you know, when Gary and I we've been working on the infinity process for over a decade now. And
on 12 years next year.
Yeah. And so we had, you know, refining all this kind of stuff down. And so then we became very, very focused on all this the beginning of 2020. No, but just before it, the end of 2019. And we became really, really focused as we've got to, you know, really, really kind of get this stuff going. And then we kind of were like, okay, well, what about this? And what about this? And we're like, and as things were progressing, you know, finally we looked at each other like, we got to do this now. People need this now because they're ripping themselves apart.
Seriously.
Inside. They are inside. And then we just put everything into high gear. And as we said that to ourselves, to each other and to ourselves, then all, you know, the process started working. And, you know, then all of a sudden just situations, synchronicities started to happen. We're like,
happened,
go. And everything kept telling us to go. And we just kept going. And going back to what Jean said earlier about Thursday's live stream, you know, we've been talking about this for a while now. We're like, you know, I think we need to go back and redo, you know, our first live stream to give more clarity, because when we were doing that, we are in that go stage. Let's get this out, and we'll come back later and refine things and clean things up. And but you know, Linda, you're spot on. I mean, you know, we get people telling us this all the time. It's like, you guys just appeared right when we needed you.
Yeah. You did.
We get that a lot. But it's true though. And
it's the way we planned it.
That's right. But it is so true. I mean, we were wrapped up in you know, it's got to be just right. It's got to be just right. And we're like, it'll never be just right. It's a process. Our stuff in its own way is a journey for us, and we're bringing everybody else into our journey as we are defining it and refining it more and more every day. And
well, that's the universe letting you know you are just right.
Exactly.
When you can surrender your preconceived notions and delegate it to the universe, which is what I do, and recognize you have no control over anyone or anything in the entire universe. You only control how you handle it.
Exactly. The choices.
And I work with couples, and they want to say he said, or he did, or she said, or she did. And I always turn it around and say, well, what did you allow?
Nice.
Good.
You know, it's your allowing it that causes you to become the recipient of whatever it is. So anyhow, that's my 2 cents thrown in.
I love it. That's awesome. Yeah, and it's spot on, Suzette. And and that was actually, you know, when we came to that point of, accepting that we didn't have to have things a certain way to deliver and present it, and all the ducks in the row and all that kind of stuff, because there's a lot of freaking ducks. I mean, it's
what's that saying? I don't have all my ducks in line, but at least they're all in the same pond.
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah.
And it's through that experience that even brought home more to Ross and I the idea of moving away from the this or that model and moving to a this and that model, and really embodying that even more, and allowed it to just say, okay, well, let's just put something out there, and people will either like it or they won't, but we know we're doing something that we believe is in alignment with our core, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I like the way Sue said in statement, which is so true. It is what you allow.
Yeah. Very much.
That's a very strong statement, and very true.
Very, very much.
That's a big struggle with people to recognize how much power they have to allow or not allow.
Yeah, because they got to take ownership, right? And people have been taught not to take ownership.
Exactly.
100%.
Yes, they would rather project it onto someone else.
Sure.
Right.
They're making me feel this way.
Yeah.
Right. And that can be used in virtually every aspect of your life, from raising children to relationships to work relationships. It's all about what you are allowing to happen, and or tolerating, or whatever you want to, however you want to define that. But it's like, well, I allowed this. In a lot of the coaching that I do with some business managers, I'm like, well, they come in, they have this the kind of the he said, she said type thing. And I'm just like, well, you've allowed this to happen. No, I haven't. Yeah, you have. Well, no, it's the rules are right here. I'm just like, but you've allowed the behavior. So now you have to disallow it, but you can't go back and slam on somebody because all of a sudden you changed your mind that you're not going to allow it anymore. It's,
Yeah, it goes, and
you
it
kind
goes
of
to,
lose a lot of friends that way, or what you thought were friends.
Exactly. Yeah. And
possible.
if you go back to, I can't remember which number it was, but it's the live stream, we talked about drawing the line in the sand.
Right.
And that's really what we talk about is, where do you draw the line and who drew it?
Exactly.
And to be more to be in that place of knowing what you're willing to accept and what you're not willing to accept in your life is allowing and not allowing the reality you want to show up.
Right.
And power. It puts all of your power, choice, and control in your hands.
Exactly.
And people are absolutely, most people, not all, but a lot of people are terrified of that power, because we've always been taught, especially in the Western world, that we don't have the power. It has to come from somewhere or someone else.
Outside of you, for sure. And that's where we talk about, and we teach so much about the choice convergence point, is because you're the most powerful place when you have ultimate choice, right? That's where you have the most powers, where there's an infinite number of choices, and you can then kind of sift your way through those to find the one that resonates most with the path you want to be on.
And when you make a choice, what makes it so powerful is you become in present moment.
You can't not be. Absolutely. Yeah.
You can choose something about the future. You can choose something about the past. But
in the moment,
when you choose, you are in present time.
100%.
And then there's a ripple effect.
Yep. Absolutely.
I love you guys, because, I don't get to talk this way to many people.
Well, that's why we created this.
That's why we did it. That's exactly.
Sue said, you just said a few words, a few lines, and it's resonate with me, and it's good.
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
And that's why we created the rabbit hole, so that we can have these conversations more and more, and that people have a place where they can come and express and realize they're not the oddities in the universe.
The island in the ocean.
Well, exactly. I love these Zoom things on Saturday. They are very important to me, because like she said, who do you talk to?
Yeah.
It's hard. I can talk to my husband, but I don't have a group, and this is my group.
Yeah, yeah.
This is my tribe.
Yes,
This is
Yes,
my
our
tribe.
we're all butterflies,
Exactly.
flying above, spreading our wings, and
Yeah,
casting
I
shadows.
love butterflies. I love
But you'll like
butterflies.
the induction. When you finish
We
the
morph and we change, you know.
when you
Yeah,
finish
I love
the stream from Thursday, you'll like the induction that I did. Then you'll really enjoy it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I will finish it. Yeah. Mm.
Okay, so ladies, we've kind of gone over our time a little bit, so we appreciate everybody joining us this
I saw Mary just
fine,
jumped
fine
in. Hey,
day.
Mary.
Hi,
Yeah.
Mary.
I came
You're
in
now
late.
Yeah, we
Okay.
just caught it.
No,
Came in
I've
at the
been
end of
wa-
the tail end.
I've been
Are you-
watching y'all on
Oh, have you?
YouTube.
Okay, good.
I've been watching y'all over on YouTube, and I just
Okay.
wanted to say that what was said about we've been taught to not take responsibility.
Yeah.
But the one thing that folks need to know is it's incredibly liberating to know that we do have the power to not allow
Yeah,
those things.
yeah.
And we focus so much on the side that says folks don't want to take responsibility, but we don't focus on the side that said, that creates pain and I actually have power over that.
Yep.
That is
Good.
a place of strength.
Mhm.
I wanted to jump on and say that because
That's
I was
awesome.
watching y'all on
Well,
YouTube.
I mean, and Mary, that goes off of, I mean, again, the reason that, Gary and I, made this move to bring the Infinity Matrix out is because so many individuals across the globe are feeling powerless.
Yep.
They're feeling that everyone else is making choices for them. And we're saying, no, you don't have to. You don't have to give in. You are just as powerful. You are the creator.
Mhm.
And the more we collectively do that, the more we collectively become the butterflies of transformation, the more that the shift will happen on a larger scale as well.
Exactly. And that's the plan.
Yeah.
I think Gary
Yeah.
and Ross, both of you are doing beautiful jobs.
Thank you.
We shall be butterflies, colorful butterflies following you. We shall morph. We shall morph.
Yeah, agreed. Totally agreed.
Thank
And
you.
there's
Yeah.
oftentimes I don't know, as a human being in this form, I lose my strength on occasion.
Hmm.
And so I have to bounce back to these kinds of groups
Yeah.
that remind me of my strength when I have
Yeah.
forgotten it.
Yeah.
Well, whether I forget it because I've not slept the night or I've eaten too much sugar, or,
Yeah.
crazy things happen in the brain
Sure.
that doesn't have, those things
Right.
that it requires. But so again, as I said 1,000 times, I'm ever grateful that y'all support us in these ways, because you're giving us the most precious gift of your time.
Thank you.
You could be spending your time this morning with your families. That doesn't go unrecognized.
Thank you.
Oh, my dogs are
Bye.
here. They're here somewhere.
Yeah, I'm currently out in the barn. The reason I watched y'all on YouTube is because I'm cleaning a stall and the horses are here, and I'm doing chores.
The horses are getting a stream too. That's awesome.
Yeah, really. The horse, we've now empowered horses. Gary, we got a whole nother market now. What do we do? Like,
Well, that's definitely keeping yourself grounded.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
sure.
sure. Absolutely.
And
love
humble.
it because,
Yeah,
and humble.
that's
Absolutely.
the
I
truth.
absolutely love it. I wouldn't trade them for anything.
Well,
even
let's
though they're
do.
a lot of work, but
Can we do a minute? Excuse me. I want to, before we leave, are you all going to be here next Saturday?
We're here
Every Saturday. You
But
came in
it's,
late though,
you know,
Suzette.
so
we're
you're not going to stop because of the holidays.
correct. Yeah.
What holidays? What?
Well, some people do honor those holidays, and I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure.
we honor the holidays as well, but
But that would presuppose that something is not a holiday. So for us, it's like, well, it's just another day.
a good friend of mine, he's a musician, and he wrote a song that I absolutely love. And it's just like, why can't every day be Christmas?
Yeah.
Yes.
It is.
And it was all about in that song. This was years and years and years ago. That song was all about the mindset. Why can't we be in a loving, giving frame of mind every day? And I'm like,
Yes, Ross.
that makes
Ross,
sense.
we make magic every day.
Yes, we do.
Right now, we are creating magic as well.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So
So I mean, it may be cut short because I do have kids that are excited about presents and stuff, but we will be here.
Okay.
At least,
All right.
Thank you for
at
that.
least Ross
Fantastic.
will be.
Much
Our
appreciated.
pleasure. And Gary's going to be wearing his elf suit.
Yeah.
All right.
And you, Ross, will be wearing your ugly sweater? What?
Yeah, I got a pretty ugly sweater. I do. And that morning, I mean, I'm going to be at my son's house. I'm taking a trip to go see my son for Christmas. But I will still be here. So he'll probably still be asleep. He works at night. So it will work out. It always does.
Wonderful.
So-
Very
Wonderful.
cool.
We want to continue this momentum. We love this momentum. When Gary and I finish these calls on Saturdays, even and obviously when we do our live streams, we are so pumped up and so charged for the rest of the day, for the rest of the week. So fantastic. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Greatly
so much.
appreciate it.
Everyone. Good night.
If you want to, going off of what Suzette said, if you really want to, expand the tribe and expand the interaction here, tell your friends, tell the people that you know about
Send them
these
the link,
calls. The more, the better. We are looking for the interaction. We're looking for the knowledge. We're looking for the insights from you as well. We don't, this whole call is not for us to be two talking heads.
Yeah. I've got 2 people watching now because I've mentioned it. so
Fantastic.
they don't interact as much as I would like, but they're here. But they're out there.
They'll get there.
Yeah.
They know
Gotta
who
get
they are.
comfortable.
Well, the one person actually introduced me to the biology of belief.
Well, there you go.
She's an energy worker. She does amazing things.
Nice.
Good. We'd love to have
and
her
she's-
on.
Yeah, she's busy all the time.
Yeah, we'd love to
doing
hear her insights. So that's
working her
fantastic.
magic. So
Nice.
yeah.
Magic. Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you
ladies.
so much.
Well,
Thanks,
thank you.
bye.
Bye, guys.